It's October 12th, and I was talking about Julie Anderson, who was the second attorney that I had, public defender, for my case in trying to get my son back. As I was saying, I was told to find my own attorney. And I later found out that Judge Hotchkiss really liked Julie Anderson, and he definitely wanted me to go with her. And probably because I think Julie Anderson goes along with a lot of what the judges want. But she makes it look like she's fighting for a client. She actually had an assistant that was working for her that left. And I have always wondered, I don't know if that assistant liked me very much or not, personally, but I have always wondered if possibly that assistant left because supposedly she had worked for her for a long time, and I think the reason she left was because maybe she was moving to a different area, maybe wanted more money. I can't remember exactly. I just remember that I had this feeling that possibly her assistant knew of unethical and illegal things that Julie was doing, or that she was uncomfortable with what was happening to me and my son. I just had this and off the top of my head, I can't remember, and probably she would go along with Julie. I can't imagine that she would not be loyal to her, especially if she worked for her for such a long time. But I guess I did wonder. I mean, if you have a personal assistant or a legal secretary that's working that closely to you, the legal secretary pretty much knows everything. I mean, am I not right? If you are a legal secretary and you were watching this video, probably, if you're working for a huge law firm where things kind of get lost in the shuffle or can be passed around to different people, maybe you don't know everything. But if you're in a really small firm and it's just you and that lawyer, or you and a couple of people, you know what's going on. Nothing escapes your eye. And I basically got stuck with Julie. She said, "Oh, I will do this, and we'll get all of this information." I said, "I have all of these witness statements from about 30 different people in the neighborhood who are all making a sworn statement of my parenting abilities and that I'm a good parent. And that my son was really happy. My son was very happy with me. And, that I didn't come across as mentally ill ever." So I had all this material, and I said I need to get it into motion form or whatever it is to enter it into the file. I said it's really powerful testimony, and I believe these people will also testify in person if necessary. And she said, "Yes, we'll do that. We'll make sure," and she said, we will increase your visits with your son." So one of the first things she did to gain my faith in her, or my trust, was to call up Marianne McIntosh, who I think she was friends with. I mean, she talked to Marianne like they were great buddies. And I mean, you can't judge a lawyer by that, because lawyers have to be nice to each other. They have to work with each other all the time. But it just sounded like, I don't know. And I think what Marianne McIntosh was trying to do was give the impression that yes, things would work out as long as I went along, as long as I had Julie Anderson as my lawyer. Because all of a sudden, the Attorney General was saying, "Yes, I agree that visits will be increased with her son." And Julie had said that that's what she was asking for, and she told me, she relayed that information to me and said, Marianne says that she does agree with that, and they will begin increasing the visitation time with your son to keep up with the bond, the parental bond. And I basically told Julie that I had documentation that people were lying in the visits. And actually, I believe that I told her that before I was ever let me think just a minute. I believe I said something about still having some documentation on memory cards. Some of the documentation had been erased, deleted and erased by the police when they arrested me on a false charge. But I think it was after that point I still had a couple of memory cards with information on them. And it was all legal because it had been recorded prior to any order to not record. So it was admissible in court. And I remember that we were going out to Malaga because I had to get somebody to sign one of these witness statements. And my lawyer, Julie Anderson, she asked her husband to take me out there. So I thought to myself, well, that's really nice. Her husband is going to drive me all the way out to Malaga, which is about a half an hour out there, to get this witness statement from Evelyn's parents. They had babysat my kids one time for like a half an hour, not very long. But they were a Hispanic family, and so he drove me out there. And when he said he would wait in the car, and I left my things in the car there because I thought he's my lawyer's husband and he's on my side. And I had only a couple of things with me. Only a couple of things, and two of those things I think were memory cards. I even said to him, do you think that it's safe if I just leave these here for a minute? Something like that. And I remember he looked over to the side, and I just had a couple of things with me. So then I went in, talked to them, and then when I got back into the car with him, I didn't notice at first, and then all of a sudden I realized my memory cards are gone. And the only person that could have stolen those memory cards from his car, when I was the only person that was in the car with him, was him. And he was my attorney's husband. And I started to wonder, what kind of a motive would someone have for stealing memory cards from their own client? And I later heard there was somebody who was in the area, and he acted like they were very pro-Israel or something. I heard other bad things about her from other people. But one person was always around her offices and saying that they were very pro-Israel. And all I found out, all that I knew about them, that I could confirm, is I was so shocked that he had stolen my memory cards that I asked him, or I asked Julie, just casually. I asked somebody and got it confirmed. I think I asked him in the car at that point, just pretending like nothing had happened. if he'd ever been in the military, and he had. He was a military person. And he had stolen my memory cards. So they were, you know, he was spending gas to drive me all the way out to Malaga just to get a statement from someone. Which was supposed to help my case with my son. But then he was stealing my memory cards, which was obviously going to harm my case with my son. And it was definitely going to do Marianne McIntosh, the Attorney General, and the Wenatchee Police, who had already been stealing from me, a really big favor. And after that happened, I was really shocked. I did another thing of pretending I was stupid again. Because what was I supposed to do? I just found out that I was in disbelief. I don't know, so many bad things had happened. I don't know why I would go into almost a state of complete, utter disbelief over it. I did not want to believe it was true. I thought, why would he drive all the way out here and help me get these statements which are going to really boost my case and bolster it? And why would Marianne McIntosh, the Attorney General, agree that I needed more visits with my son, and then have him steal my memory cards to my video camera? And after he stole them, the state decided that they didn't. It was kind of like after he stole those memory cards, they decided that they didn't have to increase the visits with my son anymore. Marianne McIntosh didn't. I think that he was doing it for her. And I didn't forget the fact that they were stolen by him. I tried to think of other excuses. Did they fall out of the car? No, they didn't. I mean, there's just no possible logistic way that they left that car, that my little memory cards grew feet and walked out of that car on their own. So I was really shocked, and I didn't have hardly any options. So then I went right before this court hearing where she was supposedly going to she was going to do something that really was not in my favor. It was sort of to do something in my favor, is to announce that she was my lawyer, basically. And she had already racked up something like over a couple thousand of billing charges, but nothing had been entered into the court for my file yet. I mean, she hadn't filed a motion, she hadn't put my documentation of all the witness statements into the court record for me. And yet she was presenting the judge with a bill, because what he had said is, you know, go ahead and get somebody, and then they'll see how much their bill is. So I heard what the bill was when she was telling the judge in court, and I was very nervous and shaky because I knew that her husband had stolen from me. And I also knew that when she was before the judge, she was lying about her costs and fees. And the judge said, well, I can't really give you that much, Julie, but I'll give you this much. And then I stood up and I said, Your Honor, I said, actually, I'm uncomfortable with this. I said, I would like to find a different attorney. I said, I think I have just discovered that there is a conflict of interest. And I said, I'm concerned that what she's saying about the bill is incorrect and inaccurate, and there is a conflict of interest. And he said, well, what is it? And I didn't want to talk about all the different things that had happened. But I knew that I had a right to recuse somebody for a conflict of interest. And she had not signed up and been hired yet.